Hey, it's Anna. Welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be hopefully reading two of my most anticipated releases of this year. I previously did a video talking about all the books I wanted to pre-order and how excited I was for them. These two books happen to come at the same time. I feel like they're very different, so I feel like it'll be a lot of fun to review them together. And I also thought it'd be fun to kind of compare how I came about these books, what I think they're going to be, how hopeful I think I am for each of these. So the first book that I'm going to show was gifted to me by the publisher, which I'm so thankful to have a relationship with this publisher where I'm able to get books, and that is for the book The Teacher by Frida McFadden. In the PR package, it did come with a letter from Frida, and I don't actually know what The Teacher is about. I don't usually know what books are about until I read into them a bit. So I read into this letter, and it did give a specific content warning because this is a book about, I believe, like a teacher and a student of sorts. So being a teacher from before, I had an irrational fear that like a student would say that I did something terrible to them because I gave them a bad grade or something. Unfortunately, I taught in Iowa where there was a incident where a teacher was unfortunately not allowed to live any longer because the students were not happy with the grade that she gave and they like stalked her and all of this. So kind of an irrational fear of mine. So this book, Frida specifically says in the letter, she says, usually in these letters at this point, the author will say, I hope you enjoy my book, but I hope my book makes you angry. I hope it makes you hurl your paperback / e-reader across the room. I hope you keep reading into the wee hours of the night because you are desperate to know how it all plays out and find out if justice is served in the end. Now, in the paragraphs before this, she talks about how her inspiration for creating The Teacher came from thinking about teenagers and how they can be easily manipulated to trust somebody because Addie, the main character, is a troubled, vulnerable girl who gets taken advantage of by somebody she admires and respects, and things go way, way too far. So Frida does say that if you are reading an inappropriate relationship that's portrayed in this negative light, even a fictional one, will jeopardize your mental health. I hope you protect yourself and reconsider reading. I don't think that's going to be something that necessarily triggers me, so I still want to pick up this book, but I think that's a good kind of warning to send out to everyone. I have read 4 other Frida books. All of them have been above 4 stars, so I'm anticipating this one will be around a 4.5 is my guess, but because of all the content warnings, I'm not exactly sure. So let's read the back together and see what this is about. We start with lesson number 1, trust no one. Eve has a good life. She gets up each day, gets a kiss from her husband, and heads off to teach math at the local high school. All is as it should be, except last year, Caseham High was rocked by a scandal involving a student-teacher affair with one student, Addie, at its center. But Eve knows there is far more to these ugly rumors than meets the eye. Addie can't be trusted. She lies, she hurts people, she destroys lives, at least that's what everybody says. But nobody knows the real Addie. No one knows the secret that could destroy her if people at school found out. And when Eve discovers the shocking truth, Addie will do anything to keep her quiet. So I think this will be really interesting in terms of, again, a different teacher being brought in, what exactly happens. These are usually books that I can read in about a day, which is why I'm confident to make a video surrounding this book, because the next book I'm not 100% sure how fast I'm going to read it. And that book is If Only I Had Told Her. This is the Barnes & Noble edition because I thought that this looked better than the white would have with the other paperback, and I'm really happy when I put the two of them together. I don't know, there's just something about this color palette that I just absolutely love, so I definitely wanted the Barnes & Noble exclusive. It came in the mail, it came a little wonky, and I want to pre-order and see how that goes and try Barnes & Noble's exclusives, but the quality that it came in was just a bit concerning, and I don't know if it's because it was rainy or whatnot, but I might just start buying the books in person again. This was my first time pre-ordering something from Barnes & Noble in the mail, so I thought that was an interesting experience. I have only listened to If He Had Been With Me, and I believe I rated this book, and I'll have to find my Goodreads review at some point, but I think I rated it a 3.5. This was so slow. Oh my goodness. It was just the years were too long. I didn't really care. And so I am really excited for this next book because I feel like from Finn's perspective, there is a lot that happens with him that I feel like just might be more engaging and a little bit more of a roller coaster and a little bit more emotional that I really want to read. So let's read the back together and see what this is about. I haven't read the back at all. I know it's from Finn's perspective, and that's it. So we start with, if only I told her that I loved her years ago, then I wouldn't be here now. Finn has always loved Autumn. She's not the girl next door or his mother's best friend's daughter. She is his everything, but she's not his girlfriend. That's Sylvie, and Finn would never hurt her. So there's no way Autumn could know how he truly feels. Jack, Finn's best friend, isn't so sure. He's seen Finn and Autumn together. How could she not know? And how is he supposed to support and protect Finn when heartache seems inevitable. Autumn surrounds herself with books and wants to write her own destiny, but one doesn't always get a new chapter, and fate can be cruel to those in love. Told through 3 different perspectives. I didn't know it was 3. If Only I Had Told Her is a love story brimming with truth, tragedy, and the unexpected bonds that heal us. So obviously, since this book came out years after this book, there are going to be spoilers for this book in here. I feel like the premise of this book isn't very spoilery at all, because I feel like you know, being a YA book and the whole best friends, but I feel like that's not spoilery at all. But just be aware that I am going to be talking about this book, so if you haven't read this one, you might want to. But I didn't realize it was from 3 perspectives. And I believe Jack was in the previous book as well. Why I am so hopeful that this book is going to be over 4 stars, because I just feel like this was so slow and so lacking that I feel like this has to pick up a bit more. I just didn't realize it was from 3 perspectives. I feel like that's a little much. And I'm curious how they do the perspectives, because, you know, I thought it was just going to be Finn's side of the story. So it does have a content warning as well. This says this novel includes depictions of death, depression, suicide, and pregnancy. If you or someone you know is experiencing mental health distress or crises, please reach out for help. Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Call or text 988 or chat at 988lifeline.org. So I think that would be really interesting, especially because I do want to read the author's notes since these books came out so far apart. But again, I don't know how fast I'm going to read this, because if it's as slow as the first one, this is what might take me a while. So I haven't decided how I want to split these 2 up quite yet. Luckily, it is a Friday afternoon, so there's no more work that is going on. So I get to really sit down and read these. I do have other things, of course, to do as always, but I want to prioritize these 2. And again, I don't know how I'm going to split them. Part of me wants to try this book for an hour and then try this book for an hour and see how it goes. But I have never read another book alongside a Frida McFadden book. Something about Frida McFadden just really encapsulates me. So it'll be interesting to have these 2 books that I definitely really want to read next to each other the whole time, and deciding what to read when. So let's go pick out which one we're going to read. All right, I am 70 pages into both of these books on my first night of reading them. So if I had chosen to read one, I would have gotten a little farther. As you can see, this one I feel like is thicker than this one. Not that I'm not enjoying this one, but I feel like this is the one I'm going to try to read the rest of the night, just because it is gripping me a bit more than this one. But let's talk about both of them. So If Only I Had Told Her, I feel like you can tell the writing has developed in a sense. I feel like with If He Had Been With Me, that it was very linear, and we talked about in the book, or at least I felt like it was talked about in the book, some kind of mundane activities, and you pretty much followed Autumn freshman year to senior year, pretty much. Some memories sprinkled here and there, but a very linear plot line most of the way through. In this, now that we're getting Finn's perspective, we know in general what day it is whenever he's talking, which is kind of a big deal to know what day it is. But what I was really looking forward to in this book was seeing some of the scenes from If He Had Been With Me from Finn's perspective, and I think we're gonna get that. I don't know how long Finn's perspective lasts in this book, but so far it is all Finn's perspective. We've gone back even beyond, I feel like, when Autumn really talked about it in If He Had Been With Me. We are talking about some elementary school memories, middle school memories. Now we're starting to sprinkle in the high school memories and kind of just really ramp that up. So, and of course we're also getting the current day, I guess you could say, memories. So a decent portion being devoted to that. I'm assuming since it's in 3 perspectives, we're going to have Jack's perspective next and then Autumn's perspective last, and that's how it'll go. But I don't know when that switch is going to happen, but at some point, I assume. I don't think it's bad so far. I am interested. I feel like because I was invested in the first book, I'm invested in this book now. I can definitely feel like there is a little bit of long-windedness in terms of Finn's process, but also I feel like he's overthinking, and so I can relate to why some things are kind of long-winded in that sense. So again, not bad. It just doesn't grip me as much as the other book, which I don't think is surprising. I mean, this is a thriller, this is a mystery. You just get these vibes, and not in the good sense, but just I feel the goosebumps forming over what I think is going to happen. But whenever I read a Frida McFadden book, I have absolutely no idea. This is the first Frida McFadden book that there are 2 perspectives right off the bat, and they're very different perspectives because you have one adult and you have one teenager. The teenager is a junior in high school, so I feel like you can tell the maturity of the voices through that way, where the adult is talking versus when the kid is talking. So I feel like that's positive. But again, I don't know what vibes are gonna happen. I have a bad feeling about everybody, but I don't trust anybody in Frida's Finn's books at all. So far, this far into the book, I know that she gave obviously a warning regarding like mental health and inappropriate relationships. So far, I feel like nothing has happened. A lot is suggested, but I feel like that's how Frida writes. She suggests a lot and has your brain go down a certain path and then like tricks you. And so that's already happened a few times in this book in scenes that I wasn't necessarily expecting. So like I said, this is what I'm going to focus on the rest of the night, which I think is fine. And I will then be able to hopefully give you all a nice page update tomorrow. Because again, I feel like I've read for maybe like 2-ish hours and I've already gotten through 140 pages. Both books are very, very quick to read. This one's just a little bit quicker. I mean, when you put these up side by side, these pages are physically smaller. And then also the teacher just has less pages overall. But I'm still more excited to figure out the mystery in this one. I feel like because I already kind of know what happens to Finn in this book, I'm not as interested because I like know what it's kind of building up to. It's still like interesting to see his perspective, but maybe when we get to some of the new perspectives that I wasn't expecting, it's going to be a different feeling. But on to the teacher for now. Let's see when I pick up the camera next. All right, it is Saturday, February 10th, and I want to talk about my progress with these two books. I have made significant progress in these two books. I had to flip one over, but this is how much I have left of one, and that's how much I have left of the other. And I had only read about 70 pages of each of these last night. So I feel like initially with both of these, even though the genres are very different and the tones are different, these are both very fast-paced reads for me, I think. And I don't know if it's because I've been reading a lot of Iron Flame lately, where the text is super tiny and this text is actually appropriately sized. I don't know, but I feel like both of these are going by pretty quick. So if you're looking for something to kind of get you out of a reading slump, if you're a mystery thriller person, I would definitely say this can help you, depending on if you can handle the content. This I would definitely say you should read if he had been with me, because obviously there's going to be a lot of spoilers since this is technically the second book in that series. Duology, I'm going to call it a duology because I don't know where another book would really go at this point for how far I am in the book. So I'm going to talk about this book first. Again, there was a whole nother book before this, so just keep that in mind. We have gotten to the second perspective at this point. So as I read in the description, you get Finn's perspective, Finn's best friend's Jack's perspective, and then Autumn's perspective. And we talked about the content warnings at the beginning, but I'm just going to say them again. It talks about death, depression, suicide, and pregnancy, which honestly makes me a little worried for reading the rest of the book because I'm not really sure where it's going to go now. This book has already made me cry. So the premise of If He Had Been With Me is from the get-go, you know that Finn is going to die in a car accident. That's information that Laura did not hide in that first book. I feel like it was very obvious from the get-go. And so the whole Finn's perspective is mainly the day before the car accident and then obviously up until when he passes away. And then getting Jack's perspective and seeing his grief is what like just lost me. Like seeing him interact with Finn's mom and Autumn's mom just like tore me apart. So watching Jack interact with Finn's mom and Autumn's mom and even Autumn herself, because you know Autumn and Finn had just realized what they wanted their relationship to be and they didn't even get a full day really to explore it. I mean, just like tore me apart. I feel like I'm getting teary-eyed talking about it now. And so now that we're past at least the point I'm in the book, is it's all looking at now Jack's life, trying to move on from really the only friend that he's ever known. And it's such an interesting read from this perspective because going away to college is already such a big change. Expecting to go there with your best friend, but having your best friend pass away. It's such a raw and vulnerable viewpoint that I can understand why it took Laura like so long to write it or why she really thought she had killed Finn off. Like I can only imagine how emotional this would have been to read, especially if Laura herself has kids too. I feel like it would just be such an emotional experience. So this is definitely a contemporary, definitely like heavier topic YA read so far. But again, I'm really enjoying it. I can definitely tell that between Finn's voice and Jack's voice, they are very distinct. So that's kind of nice. And then obviously, since she wrote the first book from Autumn's perspective, Autumn's voice will be back and unique. Obviously, the whole situation in this book I feel like is a little bit messy just because when Finn and Autumn really discover their relationship, Finn is dating somebody else. So there's that you also kind of like work with as well, dealing with this. But I honestly think it's a really good book so far. I feel like it's done very well. I definitely like this more than the first book. It feels a lot less drawn out. I feel like every chapter has served a purpose, whereas with If He Had Been With Me, like sometimes it was just way too long and some scenes could have been cut. I'm not looking forward to the latter half of this book because I really don't want to cry again, but I am anticipating finishing it hopefully soon. I only have like, I don't know, a week and a half until this video is supposed to be posted, so I feel like I have to finish it before that. Then completely like shifting from more of this like heavy, grieving, heartfelt YA book to an adult thriller mystery book that also deals with heavy content, right? So the teacher does look at a student-teacher relationship, so that's something that you can't read about at all or is really triggering. I would definitely not recommend this for you, but that is something that, again, Frida mentioned in her letter that we read. So now I'm about halfway through. Again, this is my first Frida book with two perspectives, and I feel like I can tell the voices are distinct. However, I can see how people might think that the voices are somewhat similar, but now that we're halfway through the book, I feel like it's pretty divergent into who's talking when. I think it's interesting to see our two main female characters, Eve and Addie, and just kind of see their progression throughout this book. So Eve is a math teacher. She's not happy in her marriage at all, and she is trying to figure out why her husband has been acting so distant, but then his mood suddenly changes. And then we have Addie, who's a student who everyone thinks she slept with a math teacher that was fired last year. She swears up and down she didn't, but then Addie starts to get into a relationship with her English teacher, and this English teacher is married to Eve, the math teacher from before. So everyone's kind of interconnected, and I know going into Frida's book, everyone is going to do something bad. Like, I feel like Frida has no innocence in her books at all, ever. Everyone in her books has a bad trait. Nobody is good. There's no heroes. Nobody is a hero. Nobody is good. I feel like there has already been like a major twist that I guess I should have seen coming, but I just like didn't see coming so early in the book. I'm used to Frida's bigger twist being like halfway through the books or something like that. So the fact that one was earlier, I was just a little thrown off guard. I feel like right now, I feel like I just got past kind of a slower section just because nothing egregiously bad has happened. There is an underlying mystery, but I feel like that's almost been forgotten about at this point because she's developing these other relationships that I'm sure are going to go horribly wrong later in the book. So I just got past what I feel like was a slower part, and now it's going to pick back up again. So being halfway through this, I'm expecting another major twist. What is that twist going to be, you might ask? I have no idea. I literally couldn't tell you, but I'm definitely really enjoying this. I think it's going by very fast, and so I'm hopeful to finish both of these somewhat quickly. I'm actually heading to my parents' house because my mom has a track meet that I'm driving us to tomorrow, so I'm going to bring these two with me. I am hopefully going to finish one of these tonight. Ideally, I would love to finish both of these, but realistically, I'm just not sure. And also, I feel like I'm going to cry again with this one, and so I don't necessarily want to read it in front of other people. This one I think I'm just going to be disgusted and horrified by, so I feel like this one is, like I'm not going to cry in front of somebody by reading this book, so this one might be the one that I finish first, but I'm still interested in finishing both of these. I feel like with this book, I'm most interested to see how Autumn's perspective ties in, because the shift from Finn to Jack's perspective was obviously Finn's death that we've known about since the very beginning of the first book in this duology, but I'm not sure what's going to happen in this one. I feel like I try to predict sometimes, but I'm never right when it comes to Frida's book. So let's pack these up, head to my parents, and see if we can get any more reading done. So this video about some new releases is taking a turn. Let's talk about at least what I have finished so far. The Teacher by Frida McFadden I did finish. Oh my goodness. I honestly think it was as good, if not better, than The Housemaid. And I know a lot of people love The Housemaid. Obviously a lot darker, heavier content in this one. However, I thought the twist and the turns, she's just so smart. And you know what? If you can guess the ending of this, good for you. Good for you. I couldn't. I didn't know what was going to happen at all. I was reading this during a Super Bowl watch party, and I could not take my eyes off this book. I had to know what happened. I would definitely recommend it if you can handle the content warnings. One of my most anticipated reads of the year, definitely lives up to the hype. I can't even talk about it enough. Then, as you can see, we're a good portion into the way of If Only I Had Told Her. I started getting teary-eyed reading this at the Super Bowl watch party. So I realized I need to finish this book in my house. I have already shed tears to it, so it needs to remain. I really think this is this isn't what I was expecting with this sequel. However, I'm not mad at it. I don't know know if it's all the answers that I want or necessarily 100% my favorite, but I am enjoying it enough to where I want to keep reading it. And I would read it in public if I wasn't going to start crying. Do I think it's as good as The Teacher? No. But I really don't know like what's going to live up to The Teacher this month besides Fatebreaker by Victoria Aveyard. Check back in a few weeks for that one. I do think that the pacing of this and the general story of this is better than the first book. So I'm still definitely thinking above a 4-star potentially. We're just going to have to see how the rest of the book goes. This is our first additional book. We're just going to see how far I can get through it in this video. I have about a week left before this video goes live. So this book was just released today on the 13th, Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. I've already read some of it because my Barnes & Noble actually put it out early, and I have the Waterstones edition coming. I own all of them already in the self-published version, and I actually really like this cover better than the original. I still have the original coming, but I am really excited to read this. This book feels super long. Sorry. I just looked at the back and it's like 700 pages. I'm sorry, I didn't know that. I don't know if I'm going to finish this in this video. However, I do feel like it's pretty quick, so I'm maybe like 10% of the way through it. I don't know. If you don't know anything about the Magnolia Park series, I think the way that it's done is just very interesting. So books 1, 3, and 5 are from Magnolia Park's perspective. Books 2 and 4 for now are from another character, Daisy Hate's perspective, and they kind of run in different circles, but they start to overlap. And so this is really following Magnolia's story. You followed her in book 1 and 3. Think like UK Gossip Girl pretty much is how it is, except instead of going to the same school, they're just in the same social circle because they're a little bit older. Really like it. Really heartfelt in terms of just like you feel all their feelings. You are immersed in their world. I know this is kind of like not everyone's favorite series, but I really like it. I like the voices. You get 2 perspectives in this book, Magnolia Park's and BJ's. I think they have very distinct voices, which I thoroughly enjoy. So I'm just going to see how much of this 700-page book I can read. I have so many over 500-page books that I've started. Great. Then if I finish, if only I had told her, hear me out. I'm going to start A Tempest of Tea. It is February 13th. You're right. This book does not come out for a week. My Barnes & Noble also put it out early, so I grabbed it. My friend Amy cannot stop talking about it. I think this is like a criminal trying to infiltrate vampires. I don't really know too much about it. Do I know much? No, but she keeps raving about it, so I had to get it. Also, it is a Barnes & Noble exclusive, and I'm trying to see if my membership is worth it this year. So I believe on the inside, there is some, like the special inside, and then this special hardback outside. So again, I don't know too much about it. So even though this is like kind of like reading some of my most anticipated releases videos, I thought maybe picking up one of my friend's most highly rated new releases would also be fun to kind of throw in. So this is our stack of books now. 1 finished, 2 on the way, 1 untouched. I, like I said, have a week until this video is posted, so we're gonna see how far I can get. I don't really know how far we can get. I'm hoping for the best. I was reading some of the Magnolia Parks book when I was getting my hair done today, but I don't know the next time I'm realistically going to be picking up a book this week, which sucks. I really hope I can pick up some reading tomorrow, but I am traveling for work, and then Thursday is just one of the longer days I don't usually read, so I feel like I'm gonna have to pick it up on Friday, and I don't know. So far, 1 anticipated release has lived up to the hype. I'm really hoping the other 2 can, and then this bonus one I'm also hoping is really good. All right, it is February 18th, so let me give you an update on where we are with reading some of these new releases. The first update with A Tempest of Tea, I'm actually not going to be reading it right away. I have seen a mutual of mine on TikTok just like commenting on a lot of my videos recently, and she commented when I talked about this book, and I asked if she wanted to buddy read it, and she said sure, but she wouldn't be ready to buddy read it until March, so I'm going to read this in March. I did not have to pick this up early, but I am still glad that I did because hopefully I get to make a new bookish friend out of it, but I will not be reading this one quite yet, but hopefully I'll be able to talk about it in March. I did finish If Only I Had Told Her. I only really cried once. I definitely teared up and put the book down and just like gave myself a break. I really liked this. I gave this a 4.5 out of 5 stars. The only thing is that I feel like the point of this is to not have full closure, but I do wish we had a little bit more closure, specifically in Autumn's point of view. I feel like there was a lot thrown in the very last chapter for Autumn's point of view, and I kind of wish at least some of those plot lines closed, but overall I feel like we got closure a lot on Finn's part, closure on Jack's part. We saw a lot of answers with Autumn throughout. I also thought this was a lot faster paced. I liked not necessarily going fully in chronological order, which I feel like is kind of odd for me, but because If He Had Been With Me was so sticklery in terms of the chronological order and spending so much time in these these realms. It just felt so much nicer to jump back to memories in here and also them moving forward in the future. So overall, I really like this. I like this a lot better than If He Had Been With Me. I'm really curious for people who really liked If He Had Been With Me to read this book and see if they will also like it, if they missed the original style of the book. I'm really not sure, but I definitely think this lived up to the hype. So far, we have a 5-star read with the teacher, 4.5 stars with If Only I Had Told Her. So I feel like I know what my most hyped books are, and I feel like those are going to be rated fairly highly. I will be very disappointed if like a very hyped book of mine is not highly rated. I feel like that'll definitely let me down, but so far nothing has. And then I've been reading Magnolia Parks Into the Dark. You can see I'm a decent way through. This is 700 pages, let me remind you in case you forgot. So I am almost halfway through, so I'm almost on 350. And I am reading this while also reading just like another book, because this book, while I'm enjoying it, it deals with a lot of heavy topics. And Magnolia is somebody who I've been able to relate to because I see some of my own OCD tendencies in her. And she is showing a lot of those again because she's under a stressful situation. And it is just a lot to read all at once. So what I'll do is I'll actually read like a part of the fantasy book series that I'm reading. And how that fantasy book works is that there's a letter from like the wherever fantastical place they're in, and then it's back to the real world. So I kind of read those two parts, and then however long that is, usually it's 40 to 50 minutes, then I pick this up for 40 to 50 minutes because I just like, I need breaks with this book. It's just hitting a little too close to home. The call is coming a little too close to inside the house. I'm definitely really enjoying this, especially as somebody who has already gone through the engagement process and being married. It's just nice to, you know, reminisce on those memories of being a fiance, but also there is so much that Magnolia is going through in this book. I will say that the next book that's going to come out in this series is from Daisy's perspective. I can't wait. I need that like yesterday. I don't know if she started writing from Daisy's perspective yet, but I am always more excited for Daisy's books, especially after seeing some of the events in this book. I can't wait until Daisy's book comes out. So that being said, there are 2 days until this video is posted. Today, my husband and I have like one bowling thing to do, and then tomorrow my boss is back after being gone for a week. So I don't actually know how much more I'm going to read of this. Officially, I'm on page 304, which I feel like is fairly impressive. And if this was the same length as my other 2 new releases, I probably would be able to finish it today, but I don't think I'm going to be able to finish it today because I read 200 pages of it yesterday and I felt like I had devoted quite a bit of time to it. We'll see where we end up, but that'll probably be my final wrap-up part. Overall, I am really happy with all of the new releases, and I'm so excited to see how my new releases go in the future, especially all the new releases coming out in June. All right, wrapping up this video, I read to page 350, so I'm officially halfway. Hopefully going to finish this soon, but so far, my new releases in 2024 that I've been really excited for, I have really loved, and I'm excited to talk about more of them in videos very, very soon.